Fran Gottron. He was a 1989 striker, okay? He also walked that picket line with Gerry Horgan. And I'd like to bring him up. He'd like to give you a few words. Good evening, brothers and sisters. We will never, ever forget that it was the greed of a wealthy NYNEX corporation that killed Gerry Horgan. We won that strike. Make no mistake about it. We won, but at a terrible cost. Those words were spoken by then Local 1103 President Bob McCracken at our general membership meeting held on November 28, 1989. They are as true today as they were 25 years ago. And no matter how many times they change the logo, no matter how many times they change the colors, that check doesn't fool us. They're still greedy NYNEX Corporation. On August 6, 1989, 40,000 members of the Communication Workers of America marched off the job at NYNEX in order to defend our dignity and our health benefits. Along with them were 196 CWA men and women of the West White Plains Garage in White Plains, New York, Gerry Horgan's garage. Many of them were hired in the 1950s and 1960s and had been part of the struggle to make the Communication Workers of America our union. And they themselves had won a 7-month-long strike in 1971. They were seasoned veterans of the battles with AT&T and New York Telephone. And now it was NYNEX that had thrown down the gauntlet. And we all, senior and junior, called Gerry Horgan chief. On August 14, 1989, Local 1103 Chief Steward Gerry Horgan, while walking the picket line in Valhalla, was struck by a car driven by a scab. Gerry died the next day. It's been more than 25 years since that tragic day. For me, even after all of these years, the memories of that day could not be more vivid. To set the record straight, NYNEX and its cronies, with the help of the news media, tried to make Gerry Horgan out to be some type of a reckless union hooligan who jumped on the car of this 21-year-old scab. I'm here to set the record straight tonight. On the day Gerry Horgan was struck, the Friday before, the chief steward of the LAC Center on Stevens Avenue in Valhalla came to President McCracken and said, "Scabs were driving through their picket lines. We need help." Gerry Horgan came to Bob McCracken and said, I'll go up with my guys. On Monday morning, we showed up there, and we showed up there late. So we went back on Tuesday. And on Tuesday morning, while we were walking the picket line, the scabs started pulling in, and we put up our lines. That's when Trish McNamara, a 21-year-old summer hire scab with 2 weeks left in her employment, pulled up to the picket line. Her father, who was a 30-year veteran of the company, a manager, a second-line manager, in the car behind her, said to her, "Just keep going. They'll get out of the way." Well, what this disgraceful man didn't realize, what he was doing was sending his young daughter against the will of the CWA members who were fighting for their medical benefits. Gerry Horgan stood in front of that car with a coffee in one hand and a cigarette in the other. And on one side stood a fellow named Ed Harvey, and on the other side a fellow named Dennis Vigilati. So the young girls kept rolling. She rolled forward, just like her father told her to do, until her car hit Gerry's legs. And then in a booming Marine Corps League voice, he yelled at her, "You just hit me, scab!" And what I didn't realize then, but I believe now, was that young girl panicked and she stepped on the gas. Dennis jumped one way, Ed Harvey jumped the other. So there was some truth to the fact that Gerry Horgan jumped on the hood of the car. But it wasn't because he jumped on it because he wanted to. He was jumped on it because he had no choice. He grabbed onto the windshield wipers and she sped up the road. And you can hear the car speeding up as she started to do this with the steering wheel, moving it back and forth, Gerry's legs sliding from one side of the hood to the other, until she slammed on the brakes so hard that the back of the car came up and Gerry shot off the hood of the car. He hit his head on the ground and never woke up. He died the next day at 1 p.m., leaving behind a wife, a daughter Danielle, 7 months old at the time, Christine, who was 2 years old at the time, a brother, a mother, a loving family, a union, and all his friends. Each year, members of Local 1103, family and friends and other locals go to the site on Stevens Avenue in Valhalla, as we've been doing each and every year for the past 25 years, where we place a wreath at that site, say a few honoring words, and then travel to the Nyack to the grave site. It took me many years to come to the realization that I hated that young girl. I hated what she did. I hated what she did to Gerry's family. I hated what she did to us. But I came to realize that it was a tragic meeting that occurred between these two people. That I am quite certain of this, that while she was brushing her hair, preparing to go to work on that day, she did not say to herself, "I'm going to run somebody over and kill them today." I'm equally certain that Gerry Horgan, while he was online getting his coffee that morning or brushing his teeth, leaving his house, did not say to himself, "I am going to do something so stupid and reckless that it is going to cause me not to come home to my family at the end of this day." It was a tragic meeting of these two people. But what I am angry about, and who I will always detest and hate, even though he's in the grave today, is that young girl's father. I could never understand what kind of a man tells a 20-year-old girl with 2 weeks left in employment, making $167 a week, drive through the picket line, they'll get out of the way. I have a 7-year-old daughter at home. She knows what CWA is. She knows what Local 1103 is. She knows who Gerry Horgan is. And if it's my wish, my daughter, 7 years old, will learn and never, ever, ever cross a picket line.